Ready? And action. This week on the Adapt Performance Podcast, we're going to talk about that ass.
And we back. 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 Hey, this ain't no intro. It's the entree. Hit that intro.
The butt, the fun stuff, mainly focusing on its performance. For the most part.
Performance.
Butt performance.
Interesting topic you picked this week, though.
Well,
Interesting way of presenting it, Bob.
so with the ass, the reason why we're talking about it is women love it, men love it. It helps us perform in pretty much everything that we do. And it's a fun topic to talk about, too.
Definitely not bad.
Yeah, so when it comes to, let's talk about aesthetics. When it comes to women, men, everyone wants to have a nice butt. It looks good, helps you fill out shorts, pants, swimsuits, everything. You don't want, we kind of come from a era in which people, complain about how big their butt is. But now we've kind of come into a new kind of generation where, we have all these celebrities who are being praised for their rear ends.
They're gigantic asses.
Butts, real or not real. And it's kind of an interesting time.
Definitely a change in the perception of the butt.
Yeah.
I guess it almost makes them seem like healthier, more desirable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why there's been kind of a trend with the big contrast of, how, like I said, women are always like, oh, does this make me look fat? Does this make my butt look big?
Like, hell yeah.
That being, starting off as a negative thing even like 10 years ago, but now we've come to this, where everyone wants, the Brazilian butt lift and all these different kind of gimmicky things that create a more uplifted ass. And I think that for the most part, it's become very much more kind of in demand with people. And so what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how do we build a nice butt?
Without the Brazilian butt lift.
Without these gimmicky Brazilian butt lifts, without these cement, filler shots that...
Cement filler shots?
Yeah, no, there are people, they have to, I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but basically they inject like cement, like this cement paste.
Sounds good for you.
Into your butt, and at first it creates like this reaction. It binds with all these different, like tissues in your butt.
Actually sounds scientific.
Makes your butt bigger, but then everyone their butt starts deteriorating. Like there's even women
you get a lumpy
look
butt.
up the photo. There's photos. I don't recommend looking up these photos, but there's women with holes in their butt because of these shots. So they're actually
I think everyone has a butthole,
but you don't want 5.
Ugh, that's pretty crazy.
They don't all perform the same function.
What's one way that we can, how do you achieve a perfect butt without these crazy cement plugs in your butt?
Yeah, I mean, so for cement plugs, common knowledge or the common perception of building glutes, everyone's like, oh, we just do some squats. Like you see all these on Facebook, people doing the 30-day squat challenge and all this stuff, and really what they're doing is, they'll increase their load of squats, or they'll just do we're doing 10 reps of squats on the first day, and then we're going to do 20 the next day, and so on and so on, to where day 30,
you're doing a million freaking
day
squats,
30,
yeah.
you're at 1,000 or something ridiculous. It's who's going to just do 1,000 in a day? Good, that's a good start. Again, I mean, it's one way to maybe, if you're very, very new, to maybe get some exercise. Is it the best way to build a butt? No.
And there's probably more aspects to work on than just
Aspects.
squats, right? But it's probably more you can't just go to the gym and be like, I'm going to do 5,000 squats.
Well,
and you're going to have a nice ass. There has to be more.
No, I mean,
more
it depends. I
technical
mean,
ways.
when it comes down to it, squats can be a great movement. Lunges can be a great movement. Hip thrusts can be a great movement. Deadlifts can be a great movement. All of these things, but to say one thing by itself is going to give you a kind of a fully kind of sculpted butt.
Fully shaped romp.
And that has to do with the multiple muscles that happen to be in the butt itself.
And that's
Yeah.
something that's actually something that Bo mentioned that I had
Yeah.
no idea. So there's actually, the gluteus is one of them, right? Is that
So there's,
is that actually one of the muscles' names? Really? What are the other
you got your gluteus maximus, minimus, medius,
Are you making up shit or is
No,
that
that
real?
sounds-
Oh, that's really what it is?
Those-
Oh, I thought you were
those
making
are
up.
the gluteus
I thought you were
maximus.
making up Roman gladiator names.
Gladiator names. No, really. I mean, it's kind of basic, but it is what it is.
Are you not entertained?
I was like, come on, man.
You build those three muscles, and everyone's entertained.
So the Maximus, where would that be at? And
Maximus is your major big muscle when you think about it. Again, Maximus.
That's the one that you want to really emphasize, I guess.
And then the medius and the minimus are all kind of smaller muscles that are on the side portion of your glutes. But the Maximus is the one that's kind of give you kind of that bigger overall round glute experience.
what people are looking for. Basically.
Exactly, for the most part. And when we talk about how to activate our glutes, we talked about all those different exercises, squats, lunges, hip thrusts, deadlifts, all these different movements. And they're trying to achieve two different basic movements. So you have what's called abduction, where you're driving essentially if you think about your knees, you're taking your knees apart. You're moving your legs wider.
And those are those really awkward machines.
Yeah,
right?
where you're like,
where
don't make eye contact with me while I'm using this machine.
The one that every guy avoids at all costs.
Yeah, I don't ever see any guys on there. I guess that's not a muscle that we need to work out.
You don't work out where I work out.
Looks like a crush terror.
No. But
Like, that's
and
all I spend my time on. Just sitting there.
and the other movement is going to be what's called hip extension. So if you think about you're standing up really tall, if you try to stand as tall as you possibly can, you'll kind of feel your glute contract. And with that, that's because you're extending your hips.
Is it like the clench as you walk kind of thing?
Yeah, like commonly, you hear, I train some like ex-cheerleaders, and the easiest way, or dancers, the easiest way to kind of get them to think about it is a lot of them have been told, like, for posture, like pinch a penny, which is like you're trying to pinch a penny with your butt cheeks. That's essentially the kind of cue
I guess that's a good.
that I give. But yeah, when it comes down to it, again, abduction, which is that separation of the legs. You kind of see like the Suzanne Summers like doing one of these movements, like do 100 of those. And then you have, again, hip extension, which is the main movement, the main builder of a good butt. And with that, that's what's going to be taking place with, again, the squats, the lunges, all sorts of stuff like that. It comes down to using those movement patterns with pretty good frequency, because the glutes are such a high endurance muscle that they need a lot of stimulus, they need a lot of load, and they're probably the strongest muscle in your body, even if you have never worked them out before. There's just such a strong muscle, it doesn't have to go through so much range of motion. Like if you think about like a squat or a deadlift, like that's a lot of range of motion. You're staying up tall, you end up coming all the way down to the floor. But with something like a hip thrust, which we'll put a video in here too, the hip thrust.
What is the hip thrust? You keep saying like the hip movement. What do you exactly like? Will you
So think
specify
about
what you mean by
like a hip
extension,
thrust,
I guess
like
you
you're
could say.
what we call kind of, it's almost like you're humping the bar.
Okay.
Now you're laying down backs on the bench or on the floor. You have some sort of weight or resistance
On your hips.
on your hips, and you're literally lifting it up off the ground.
Okay. Gotcha.
And with that
Pinching it.
movement,
You're
you're kind of
the pinny.
achieving both factors of glute activation, but you're able to load really, really heavy, far more than most people can even squat or deadlift. And you're able to load the glutes really, really heavy and kind of isolate that muscle a little bit more. You will still have some quad activity, some good hamstring activity too, but predominantly the way it's used is mainly for some good isolation with the glute.
And that's why he was saying, like, you get both movements out of it. You get that extension of the hips, tightening the glutes, along with, especially if you have like a band around, like a little below your knees, driving those knees out. You know, obviously not too far, but you're going to have that resistance to keep you well within range. But that little extra just kind of movement of driving it out, it's going to work the outside part of it too, so you get kind of a full.
Yeah.
And, you know, along with having, you know, saying it's one of the strongest muscles that you have, whether you use it or not, which is why, you know, like skinnier people tend to have smaller butts.
Yeah, that's me all the way.
Tend
yeah.
to, you know, there's always the exception and stuff, but you basically use it in almost every lift that you do. You know, he was saying squats, deadlift. You use it in bench if you're benching properly. You'll see your numbers go up pretty significantly if you really engage and activate the glutes in there. Keep it nice and tight and clench, as opposed to just letting your lower back and your glutes go just kind of limp, you know, not really engaging them at all.
That's what it comes down to, glutes and how they function in performance. Like you said, everything we do involves our glutes in some way, whether they're stabilizing or they're for us kind of bridging power and transferring power throughout our body. So you think about jumping, sprinting, natural movements. Our glutes are so active with that. Like you don't see very many, if you take like the contrast between like a sprinter versus a marathon runner. Like we talked about this a little bit in the running podcast, like literally sprinters are going to be well developed, full musculature, probably have big like meaty butts, and marathon runners for the most part are going to be not as defined.
Slender,
you might
yeah.
still have, they might have more of like a, if you think about like a lion versus a gazelle. You know, gazelles are meant to run for long periods of time. Like lions are big, muscular,
Like putting out energy.
but they're not going to be able to catch up. You have to get that gazelle quickly, or
Yeah, you're not
Slow
gonna-
twitch
or you
versus
miss out.
fast twitch. You know, you got those bigger fast twitch muscle fibers compared to the slow twitch that is more for endurance and is going to be a lot more slender on people and stuff.
Gotcha. So how much you structure like a good butt workout? So say, should my goal, if I want to get a huge butt, if I'm looking like Kardashian, do I want to go do squats and deadlift every single day, or?
You know, there's ways to kind of help it out. I wouldn't necessarily say like you should just go in and have a butt day. You know, we kind of debunked the whole bro split on the first
Exactly,
podcast, and you know, you don't want to just be like, well, today I'm going to work out my butt and nothing else. You know, as we said, it's using about every lift. So just about every day that you work out, it's going to get some sort of activation. You're doing bench if you're doing proper form and activating it, and you know, you can even do some additional workouts to kind of supplement it, lunges, other things that aren't like, I guess, high workload workouts that will help it out. But you know, if you go in and you do a full body workout with a focus on bench, you know, chest and tris and all that stuff, then you will still activate it. Deadlifts, obviously, you'll
Assuming
Mm-hmm.
get that
you're doing the bench press
extension,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
And along with, if you're doing like extension through deadlift, maybe add some maybe band walks to work the other parts of the glutes
Like
that may
the
not be
accessory
worked.
muscles you were mentioning.
yeah.
The
And
small ones.
I guess if you were like maybe just like with sprinting, like if I was wanting to do like wind sprints, like suicides, would that be
You
a
could,
good
you
butt
can definitely,
building exercise?
develop a good amount of musculature just from sprinting alone.
Like short range sprints.
You know, again, because it's so much resistance, it's so much just high force. Every time you strike the ground, you're creating maximal force to continue propelling yourself forward. And it's funny that you mentioned sprints, because if you think about like, if you've ever seen like a chimpanzee,
Mhm.
like chimpanzees are
Nope,
structured.
never seen one.
Never seen one? You never
No,
heard
what
of
is
it? It's
that?
a mythical creature. It's no, but chimpanzees. There was a Harvard study that actually found that chimpanzees, the main reason that they don't have really like well-developed butts,
They got flat asses.
and that we do, is because chimpanzees, if they're going to sprint, they sprint like this.
they're on all
They
fours.
sprint on all
yeah.
fours. They use their hands, as opposed to us. We don't run that way.
Stupid monkeys.
But so what happens is the monkey, like a chimpanzee, it's going to run like this. That's what's keeping it from falling over. What keeps us from falling over is our butt.
Oh, like
Strong
your core and butt.
Yeah. Our quads and our butts are pretty much what keep us from falling over.
Keep you stabilized, I guess.
And so, because running is all this position, we're leaning forward, you know, and our ankles are what kind of catch us, keep us forward into a good position. But all that striking in a sprint position is really similar to almost like doing a squat or a lunge. If you think about like that split leg position, we're here like this, doing a lunge. If you take that and you throw us forward like this, we're sprinting.
Got you. Like just a little short range of motion and kind of a tilt, and you're in the same position. Yeah.
And again, that glute is what's active the whole time to keep us from falling over.
And I guess this might be more in the vein of like maybe if we decide to do a squatting episode, but just something I'm actually curious about is, so say you see a lot of people go into the gym and they kind of do the half-ass squat where they kind of get like 90 degrees and right back up. And
90 degrees is good.
Yeah, but you normally, like, I've seen people go in and you would do like ass to the grass. You've heard that before. It's like when people do squats, ass to the grass. Excuse
Yeah.
me. What does that hit another muscle deeper? Does that hit the maximus better, or?
So the ass to grass idea, mainly the main focus with that is going to be making sure that we are, it's all very specific to what's your goal. So like if you're trying to build the most muscle possible, going through full range of motion with anything is going to be the best bet.
So ass to grass would be like more efficient.
Ass to grass is like, I'm trying to build good muscle.
Okay,
That's-
gotcha.
But if you're a sprinter, you know, for you to get better at your sport, like you going ass to grass isn't really it's not gonna help you very much.
Yeah.
Like, but you getting really, really strong at what they call like a quarter squat, like quarter depth, getting here, coming here, there's really nothing
Just
nothing
throwing
in
it so they-
sprinting that you're going to get lower than that position.
Because
So it's all
I think
about
that's a
building
range of
maximal
motion.
strength where you're going to use it.
Got you. So, it depends on what you're trying to, I guess,
It
improve.
depends on what the goal is, but
Yeah.
for the sake of building a good butt, like the combination of deep squats are going to help quite a bit. Throwing in kind of all these different movements that do achieve the main goal of hip extension.
And make sure you get the full range of motion on all of those.
Yeah,
That's
getting
one
full
thing.
range of motion. I mean, you can do like they call burnout reps or oscillatory reps, where you're kind of just doing like little pulses, like that, where you're
I've
going
seen-
full
I've
range
seen
of
that
motion.
before, yeah.
And you can do that to create kind of like a burn, feel, but to train the whole muscle, that's what's going to get you the best
You
overall
want to do the full
benefit.
range.
Yeah.
I always just thought that people just said that to be mean, like all the way down.
Yeah, and so when it comes to structuring good glute workouts, like you talked about, is keep in mind we have to manage our fatigue with other muscles. So like you can't squat 3 times a week, really, really heavy, a lot of volume, and expect that to grow your glutes, because what's going to happen is you're going to be limited by either your back or how much stress you're putting on your quads, because your glutes,
You're not only hitting your glutes.
they're not going to be the main thing fatigued
Yeah, like you
during
said,
a
it's
squat.
a high endurance muscle, whereas other,
They just
other-
can take on a lot of damage because they're so active all the time.
Like other muscles will wear out before your butt gets
Yeah,
tired.
if you think about like whenever you do deadlifts and stuff, what's going to go out first? Well, if you're doing heavy weights, your grip might get a
my
little fatigued.
fingers.
But like your lower back will be sore. A lot of people, whenever they're done, they're just like, oh, I don't like standing because my lower back's just so fatigued and tired. But you're still getting that glute activation unless you're just doing deadlifts all wrong.
But your lower back is failing out before your butt fails out.
Yeah, and that can kind of come down to managing also technique and things, and making sure that
Yeah.
your back is stabilizing and not doing the kind of like the
Right.
majority of the movement. But for the most part, if you're going to compare like what's going to fatigue faster, my glutes or my lower back, usually it's going to be lower back with most movements, squats, deadlifts, things like that.
Because you use your butt you're just saying a second ago, you
It's
use your butt for everything you do. So
It's kind of like we talked about last week with like your calves. Like
Yeah.
how often are your calves really sore? Not too often, because they're always being used. Your glutes are always active. They're again keeping you upright, keeping you from falling. So like using that mindset into how we kind of train our glutes is understanding that our glutes are active with a lot of stuff, but we have to really target them and throw a lot of load their way too, to make sure that we're actually activating them properly.
And I think that's another good thing we should touch on after the break is kind of the mechanics of the butt, how it's used in certain movements in everyday life and in different lifts that people may use to kind of help develop them. So I think that would be a good time to take a break, come
Yeah, let's-
back, talk a little bit more about how the building a butt will help you out in everyday life and in lifting. Seymour, Bo, Lucas, Adapt Strength and Conditioning. We'll be right back, y'all.
Hey everybody, Bo Alexander with Adapt Strength and Conditioning. Again, with our kind of glute series, we're talking about single leg glute bridges. Again, using the bench like we did with our barbell glute bridge, we're gonna set up right here just like this. Upper back is on the bench, arms are kind of nice and relaxed. You can use a dumbbell, place it onto the hip with the leg that you're moving, or any other kind of tool that you'd want to use. But we're just setting up right here. One leg goes up, hip comes down, hip comes up. Again, same thing, straight line from our knee to our shoulder, that's our finish position. And then back up again, just like that. Although you don't need any weight for this movement, it still is pretty difficult using that one leg. So repetitions kind of in the 8 to 15 range. If you can do more than 15, maybe add some weight. Good. All right. So again, Bo Alexander, Adapt Strength and Conditioning. Have fun building that butt. See you next time.
All right, guys, we're back with our 4th installment of Adapt Performance Podcast, talking about mass to ass, adding some mass to that ass.
That ass.
back to the butt stuff.
We left off talking about glute activation, how it's important for athletic performance, everyday life, all that stuff. Just kind of the importance of having a strong and healthy butt.
Yeah, when it comes to strong in terms of performance and healthy when it comes to just overall
Plumpness.
I mean, being strong, being
The
healthy.
girth of the butts.
I would assume when you mean healthy, we're talking about like a healthy appearance and how good shapely butt looks. Things like reducing cellulite and overall appearance of a butt, making it kind of look more round. And a lot of that comes down to making sure everything's firing properly. So when we talk about glutes, we make sure that when you're doing a glute exercise, if it's not firing properly, everyone like makes that kind of joke about like Tiger Woods, and he's like, oh, just my glutes aren't firing. It's like, no, your glutes are firing. They're probably just not firing in the right sequence. And that right sequence is kind of what's called contralateral. So it starts off on one side, and all that power kind of phases up and goes to the opposite side. And so that works with our glute firing, then down to our hamstring on that same side firing, and then our opposite lower back on the opposite side.
Contralateral.
Contralateral, against sides.
Sounds very scientific.
So think about it like when you're sprinting. When you're walking, that's contralateral movement. You don't walk like this,
Yeah.
When you take a
same
step
hand,
with
same
your
foot.
right, your left hand goes forward. That's contralateral movement, because if we didn't do that, we would start like twisting.
Or you look like
as you're,
really, or you
as
look
you're
like
walking,
weird,
you
like
would.
robot status. Yeah.
Well, you
Like
can take
if
steps
you're
and you
throwing,
kind
if you're throwing a ball,
Can't stop
of
turning right.
twist and move
if
weird.
you're throwing a ball, you're not throwing with this foot coming forward like
Yeah,
that.
unless you suck. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Unless
not
you're
going to throw it very far.
terrible.
That's when it comes down to like sports performance, making sure everything's firing properly. So if it's doing those exercises that we mentioned earlier, making sure that your glutes are firing first, allowing then everything else to fire too. And a lot of that, this comes from Cal Dietz. He's a head strength and conditioning coach at the University of Minnesota. Probably one of the smartest guys I've ever listened to. I follow a lot of his stuff, but he talks a lot about just the big toe. And just how important your big toe is for glute activation and overall performance. And if your big toe is not active, then you're potentially creating the wrong firing patterns.
I'm going to go off on a tangent on here, but sometimes when I squat, my toe cramps. Is that why? is that why?
You strengthen your toe.
I got to work on my big toe.
Your
yeah.
butt isn't strong enough. That's what's
That's
wrong.
why my toe is
If
killing me.
if you were to take like a second and think about how you walk, like if you were to take a step, notice what lands first is usually your pinky toe, and all your other toes essentially try to kind of grab the floor, but you finish with your big toe. You step with your big toe, you finish a jump with your big toe, or you should. And what that's going to make sure is everything is firing properly. We're getting all sorts of good activation, again, from glute to same side hamstring to opposite side on the lower back. And what you see commonly with a lot of people that have poor movement patterns is they're like a breath away from dysfunction or a breath away from potential injury.
Or
So-
even those that maybe it attributes to like chronic back pain or some
Yeah.
issues that they have. Or even knee pain, stuff that's just kind of like, maybe something's wrong with my knee. Maybe it's a glute issue, could be, or just the fact that it's not firing in the proper sequence.
And we kind of touched on that, I think, last week, was whenever like kind of one issue will cause another issue. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
your body is supposed to be a well-oiled machine.
And
but-
then if you don't know really that's even possible, you're like, oh, well, why does my shoulder hurt whenever like I injured
Yeah, you would
myself-
never-
injured my hip 2 years
you would never
ago.
connect those two things in your head unless you had heard that, because it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, really.
Yeah, not very many people, like your everyday person, is going to, again, connect those two things, but making sure that the glutes are firing properly when we are performing all these exercises, whether it's you're running, walking, anything you're doing, making sure, again, just think big toe. If you think big toe, you're going to start re-correcting some of those good firing patterns. And a lot of that is going to carry over huge to sports performance. When you talk about runners, jumpers, anyone, if you are pushing off properly, think about the way that your ankle works. So your ankle, like imagine my hand is my ankle. If I'm going to jump and I can only do that, I can only get that much what's called plantar flexion of our
Mhm.
ankle. If I can only get that much, think about how high I'm going to jump as opposed to me being able to push off full force like that.
Big difference, obviously.
Big
Yeah.
difference.
Big
Difference of
difference.
like 6 inches.
It's almost like half a foot.
I can only jump 6 inches, Lucas. So
Just think
how
of your-
how would
think of
you
your
like to
ankles.
jump one whole foot? Yeah, so
all
I mean,
in the big
like
toe.
changing people's 40 times, changing people's verticals, like, I mean, it's literally when it comes to like NFL combine level, like that 6-inch change is millions of dollars.
fractions of a second, inches of a foot for the vertical. I mean, you're talking minuscule
Feet of a
differences.
mile.
So a big butt will help you jump higher, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. That's what I was talking to you a little bit earlier about horses. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if
you
you
were-
go
that was
to
interesting.
if you go to like a track and you don't know anything about horses. I don't know anything about horses.
Okay,
If I
well,
go to a
I'll-
track,
Definitely shit about
horses
horses.
is actually equestrian.
I'm a jockey in my spare time,
You're the tallest jockey I've ever
The
seen.
biggest jockey in the world.
Yeah.
which is weird. I ride the
Jockey.
smallest horse.
Yeah, but so when it comes to like picking horses or even